any harm came to him. The brothers agreed. When Joseph arrived, they ripped his robe off of him. I'll do it for you. They ripped his robe off of him. The fancy colorful robe. I still love it.
Amazing Technicolor dream code.
Amazing Technicolor dream code.
That's a different part.
Wow, I really lost my face. Oh wow, the fancy colorful robe he was always wearing, or that his father had made for him. And they threw him into the pit. Now this pit happened to be an empty cistern. There was no water in it. Then they sat down to eat. And soon they looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelite traders approaching from Gilead. Their camels were loaded with gum, balm, and fragrant resin. And they were on their way down to Egypt with their goods.
What profit will it be for us if we just kill our brother and conceal the crime? Come on, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites instead. We won't have to lay a hand on him then. He is, after all, our brother, our own flesh and blood.
We agree.
Oh no! As the Midianite traders were passing by, they brought Joseph up out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for about 8 ounces of silver, the usual price of a young male slave. The traders set off with Joseph in the direction of Egypt. Now Reuben had not been around when the caravan came by. So when Reuben came back to the cistern later and saw that Joseph was not there, he tore his clothing in agony and despair, and he went back to his brothers.
The boy is gone. What do I do now? What am I supposed to tell father?
As the oldest, Reuben is responsible for what happens to Joseph. Does he dare go home and face his father? After sleeping with his father's concubine, he has little chance now of being confirmed as Israel's firstborn. It's nice to like happy out there, right? The brothers took Joseph. Oh no! Yes, nicely put. The brothers took Joseph's fancy, colorful robe, slaughtered a male goat, and dipped it in the blood, and then they took the special robe to their father.
We found this, Father. Tell us if you think this is Joseph's robe.
This is my son's robe. A wild animal must have killed and eaten him. Joseph is without a doubt torn to shreds.
Then Jacob wailed in agony and tore his clothes with the depth of emotional pain only a father can feel upon losing a child. He dressed in sackcloth and mourned his son for a long time. All of his sons and daughters tried to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted.
No, I will go to the grave grieving for my son.
Israel is inconsolable. His grief over his son transcends even death itself. This is how deeply Joseph's father grieved for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites arrived in Egypt and sold Joseph to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officers and the captain of the guard. The word of the Lord.
Thank you, God.
So I'm going to begin at the end, sort of. Picture with me Jacob, Israel, and his wives sitting together in a therapist's office. Jacob is holding his son's robe, the colorful one, the one that he gave him as a special present. Jacob's sons have tricked him. He believes Joseph has been killed by a wild animal, and everyone has tried to console him, it says. All of his sons, his daughter, all his wives, but Jacob is inconsolable, it says. And so the therapist says, Jacob, tell me about the robe. Jacob says, it belonged to my youngest son, Joseph. He's Rachel's son. I love him the most. There's a pause, and Jacob adds, although he had a dream recently that bothered me. Oh yeah? The therapist says, what kind of dream? Tell me about it. The kid is a little too big for his britches, he says essentially. He dreamed that the sun and the moon and 11 stars bowed down to him. And I laughed and I said, do you think we will all bow down to you? The therapist doesn't ask, how does that make you feel? Instead, she says, Jacob, tell me about your father. And Jacob says, well, My father and I weren't that close. He was kind of an idiot, actually. My mother and I tricked him into giving me the family blessing by wearing my brother's clothes and wrapping goat fur around my neck and on my arms. The therapist tilts her head and looks a little bit confused. And so Jacob adds, well, my dad's kind of blind as a bat, and he liked Esau better than me. So the therapist asks, so your dad had a favorite too, like you have a favorite? Well, yeah, Jacob continues, but my mom liked me best. So you all have favorites, just like all of the parents that you know had favorites. And so Joseph isn't dead, but instead off enslaved to Egypt. And Jacob doesn't know this. This story is hardly about him, if we think about it. Jacob's story or Joseph's story, it ain't nothing but a family thing, is what I want to say. We use that phrase, ain't nothing but a family thing, often to mean like, oh, don't worry about it, it's just what it is, right? Sometimes we use it with addiction to like, oh, it's just part of my genes, part of my DNA, nothing but a family thing, right? Nothing to worry about, ignore it, move on. I'd like to say that maybe family things might not be worth worrying about, but they sure are worth wondering about. That's why I placed Jacob in therapy this morning, with his wives as well. Now, all we know from Jacob the last couple weeks is that he ended up marrying the wrong sister, we learned a couple weeks ago, and he wrestled with a man last week and ended up getting a limp and blessing from it. Right? So again, did you picture Jacob limping into the therapist's office? Or no? It's kind of hard to remember that the patriarch has a limp. Now, what happened in the middle of those stories, though? Here's where I want to go. Jacob and Leah, right, the first one he married, they had 4 children. Rachel struggled to have children, so she gave her maidservant to Jacob to have children, and they had 2 children. Leah responded by giving her maidservant to Jacob, and they had 2 more children. And then Leah conceived again, 2 sons and 1 daughter. Dinah was her name. And then finally, Rachel bears 1 son, Joseph. The therapist is writing all this down. If you've ever been in therapy, right, what are they doing? They're writing your genome, your family tree, so they can figure out why you're so messed up. That's a little bit of a rough crowd. You have like little giggles this morning, right? Sometimes therapists just can't keep track. For this family, I'd be like, hold on for just a second. Leah has how many? Oh, wait, 4, okay. And wait, what's her maidservant's name? Like, it would be really hard to keep up, I think. So the therapist is writing all this down and asks them if they ever heard of family systems theory, right? Now, of course, they hadn't heard of family systems theory because it was developed in the 20th century by Murray Bowen, right? Bowen concluded that Bowen, do you have family systems theory? Familiar, not familiar, new to a lot of you? Okay. So, Bowen conducted clinical studies at the National Institute of Health where he had whole families live in psychiatric wards together, and he watched them, right? Okay, again, Jacob and his 4 wives and all their children in the psychiatric ward, that's just popcorn fun, right? Okay. So he noticed, this is what Bowen noticed, he noticed that when you watch families, they act in predictable patterns. He noticed that anxiety or stress, right, could actually be passed from one member of a family to another, and sometimes even to a member of the hospital staff, right? He also noticed that if indeed it was passed to a member of the hospital staff, that the family would actually be alleviated of their stress. Like, people are happy to give their stress away. Not me, of course, or you, right? But other people that Bowen studied in psychiatric wards, right? So he noticed, he essentially noticed that stress is contagious, that anxiety is contagious, in that we can take it from one another. And sometimes we know we're doing it. Sometimes it's an act of actual intentional help. Let me take some of this pressure, stress, anxiety from you. Let me help you, right? But a lot of times, it's passed on to us without clear intention. All of a sudden, we just kind of have taken on the person's stress. When stress enters any system, it could be anything, stress of any kind, car accident, divorce, infertility, birth, death, a move, a new job, a loss of a job, a bad grade, a bad day. When any stress enters a system, right? Anxiety is produced. Stress then starts to move between the people within the system. It becomes contagious. We've inserted a contagion, right? That's when we have to figure out what of this stress belongs to me and what of this stress belongs to someone else. And then let that person have the stress, even if it's difficult to watch, right? Because if it's not yours, period. Bowen found that when he worked with individuals to differentiate, that's called differentiation, is what I just said, to decide this is what's happening to me, and this is what's happening to Aaron. What's happening to Aaron is not happening to me. Only that I am friends and love Aaron, right? That's called differentiation. So Bowen found that when he worked with individuals to differentiate, to discover what anxiety and stress really belongs to them and what doesn't, it affected the relationship that they had with their current spouses and children. So, did you catch that, right? That means when we work to make the relationships we have with our family of origin healthy, it helps our current family relationships to be healthy. When we work to make the relationships that we have with our family of origin, we discover where the stress was and how much of it was ours and how much of it was other people's. So Jacob's family is really a wonderful, dysfunctional family. One of the great gifts of the scripture is that it doesn't tell stories of people who have it all together. In fact, I don't know any of them that have it together in the scriptures. The stories in the scriptures are about messed up, dysfunctional, clueless people who are still trying to be faithful and faith-filled. None of them have it together. Jacob was tricked by his sons, just like he tricked his own father. It was predictable, almost. How did he not see that coming? This dysfunctional family of Jacob's, it wasn't born in a day, right? Jacob and his sons, Jacob and his wives, Jacob and his parents, they have known jealousy and bitterness and anger and betrayal and lying. It's part of their family thing. Ain't nothing but a family thing. So we're left in the middle of this story, right? Jacob, he's holding Joseph's tattered, bloody robe and he's inconsolable. What does that mean to any of us today? I dare say that we in our own families have known jealousy and bitterness and anger and betrayal and lying. In our church family, we've known jealousy and bitterness and anger, betrayal and lying. In our national system, in our country system, we've known jealousy and bitterness, anger, betrayal and lying. On the global scale, we've known jealousy and bitterness, anger, betrayal and lying. We have all experienced things that insert stress, that introduce stress to a system, right? We have car accidents, we've had divorces, we've been infertile, we've known births and deaths, we've had new homes and new jobs, and we've lost jobs. We've gotten bad grades, we've had bad days. These are all normal human things that introduce anxiety and stress to a system. All kinds of things add anxiety to our lives. And like I was saying, family systems work on larger systems, like church systems, or like country systems. Anxiety is contagious, and so when we encounter anxiety, we need to be intentional about taking on the part of that anxiety that belongs to us, not passing it off to someone else just because I would prefer not be anxious, right? And then we need to make sure we leave a portion that doesn't belong to us to the people it belongs to, right? How well do you know yourselves? That's what it comes down to. Do you know how you deal with anxiety? Maybe you triangulate, right? One of the things I've been playing out this therapy thing with Jacob and his wife many times. And so for a while I had in my mind Jacob sitting, holding Leah's hand or holding Rachel's hand because Joseph was her son, right? But then I had to cut a whole section, which is just the saddest part of my morning. Maybe some other day you'll hear about that section. But then that section made Rachel let go of Jacob's hand and hold Leah's hand because then they were mad at him because he just doesn't ever do anything about the crazy kids and their ridiculous jealousy and lying and throwing their brother in a pit. What's the matter with them, right? This is where I was, so. Right, so sometimes when we have anxiety, we look for someone else to stabilize us, right? Especially in a relationship, right? So if Aaron and I have a fight, we might find Peter as another staff person to like agree with us, right? So that then we're stable again, right? So we find someone else just to feel, you know, like someone agrees with us. We need someone to agree with us. That's called triangulation. It's actually really normal. It's a human behavior. All systems are made up of triangles. We just need to keep our triangles healthy, right? Maybe you triangulate. Maybe you get angry. Maybe you get angry and sometimes wonder, why am I angry at this, right? And so you've mismanaged the anger. You're angry at something, for sure. But now this other anxiety enters the system and you decide you're going to be angry at this other thing. And you don't understand why you're so angry at it because it's not even your thing. But you're angry because you're really angry at this other thing that you're just ignoring. Maybe you get depressed and you withdraw, right? That's also a very common trait. When we're anxious or stressed, we just would prefer not to interact with people. It's just harder. So if Jacob and his wives lived in the 21st century, they would know Bowen, perhaps, and his family systems, but they might also search the internet to figure out how to deal with anxiety, right? And if they had searched the internet, they might find a variety of places to find 10 steps to deal with your anxiety, 3 steps, 5 steps, whatever. Here's how to teach your children anxiety. That was the one I was hoping Jacob would click on, right? But here's my 5 things I will offer you. Semi from the internet, semi from just watching people. Learn to relax. That does not mean vegging in front of a television. That is not actual relaxation. Learn how to relax your body when you are stressed, using breathing or yoga, something like that. Learn how to relax your body. Number 2, get enough sleep, nourishment, and exercise. To that we all go like, no, except, right? But when I'm really anxious, I go, oh, I haven't been to the gym in a week. And yesterday I only had M&Ms. Number 3, connect with others, especially if your tendency is to withdraw under stress, right? Which I'm not going to say don't withdraw, because all of us need a little bit of time to ourselves to like figure out what's happening. But if you notice that you're taking a lot of time and you're really just withdrawing, you got to figure out how to connect with someone. You got to have one safe person in your life that you can call and say, I've withdrawn. Right? Number 4, go outside. Go outside and walk around the house. That's all you need. Go outside, step on your front porch, breathe 3 times. Go outside, breathe real air. Right? Even real New Jersey air will do good for you. Number 5. Be grateful, right? If you're feeling particularly stressed or anxious, name 3 things for which you are grateful. Only 3. If you're really stressed or anxious and you have this thought, oh, Pastor Beth said, be grateful for 3 things, you're probably going to be like, I'm not grateful for A. So 3 is all about what you can do. Just 3. Come up with 3 things for which you are grateful. When we're able to deal with anxiety individually, then we're better able to enter a system, whether family, or church, or work, or national, in a healthy way. We can handle our own anxiety, and we can handle a system that has anxiety. Now, Joseph's story is not over. It leaves us right in the middle, and you have to come back next week or watch it on YouTube in order to find out if Joseph figures out how to differentiate himself from the anxiety in his system. So for now, my hope for us is that we learn how to differentiate ourselves. My human self from your human self, from the church human self, from the nation's human self, right? Find out what belongs to us, what belongs to others, and live that way. Amen.